First he's in, then he's out. I really hate the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you are going to download it, it's going to be free. And as always, I'm always going to appreciate your support. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you can place a $5 bet. You can get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Just because we talk about it a lot, the transfer portal, everyone's attention's been tuned into recruiting, the transfer portal. Just because we talk about it a lot doesn't necessarily mean I like it. In fact, becoming a really big fan of not liking the transfer portal, at least the way it's being used right now. Last week, at the end of the week, it appeared like USC had picked up two cornerbacks. Big focus of need. Two guys. And they did get one. The other one didn't stick around very long. We'll get to that here just in a second. So you got Doug Belk. He's got his secondary room. You're losing four guys, right? Four guys who played a big role at the cornerback position. Top four guys. Jalen Smith, Jacoby Covington, DeCarlos Nicholson, John Humphrey. A lot of experience that's leaving. And then if you want to include Greedy Vance and Achille Arnold, possibly Kamari Ramsey, that's your starting secondary. I mean, you got Jalen Smith, Jacoby Covington, both safeties, and your nickel. All those guys gone. One of the last remaining guys from the Clay Helton era. And we're getting really down. I mean, we're getting down to like how many you can count on one hand. And you don't even need a full hand anymore. So you've got Prophet Brown. He's the guy with the most experience at cornerback. He's a redshirt junior this year. You've got safety, Anthony Beavers Jr. So if Kamari Ramsey does decide to leave, he gets a good draft grade. That leaves you with Zion Branch, redshirt sophomore this year. You've got true sophomore Christian Pierce, true freshman Jarvis Boatwright Jr., and then you also have don't forget true freshman from Southern California, Marquise Gallegos. I just basically went down alphabetical order. That was not in any particular order there. So even though there's some good young talent on the roster, there's a reason why they're looking to supplement the room with guys who have actually game experience. It's a top priority right now. Huge priority. So as I mentioned, they thought they had two cornerbacks. You've got DJ Harvey. He played at Sierra Canyon. He did 2 years in Blacksburg, Virginia with the Virginia Tech Hokies. He then transferred to San Jose State, did 2 years there. He's got one more year of eligibility. He's coming home, coming back to LA. Going to finish up his career at USC. He played at Sierra Canyon. And then I mentioned USC thought they had two guys in. The first guy who committed, Chasen Johnson, he's from University of Central Florida. He lasted, 24, 48 hours, whatever. Then he decided he's no longer committed to USC. He's now committed to SMU. Chasen basically did the hokey pokey. Put his foot in, took his foot out. Now he's going to be an SMU Mustang. So Marcellus Williams, Braylon Connolly. Those are the guys who are returning. Assuming Prophet Brown returns, he's going to be in the mix. That's your experienced guy. Behind him, you've got Marcellus Williams, Braylon Connolly. Those two guys are probably the odds-on favorite to win one of the positions, possibly challenge for both. What about at safety? Well, before I get to safety, you also have redshirt freshman Malachi Crawford, who's going to compete at cornerback. You've got true freshman Isaiah Rubin, Los Alamitos. He's also going to compete. Behind them, you've got a sophomore walk-on. His name's Sean. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Sarah, Chra. That's it. That's who's returning. So obviously, whoever comes in, they're going to create some competition. That's good, right? Doug Belk, his room needs guys with experience immediately. You got Tristan Castro. He comes in this January if he's an early enrollee. Alex Graham, young man from Michigan. So again, USC is going to get younger. They're getting talent, but they need guys with experience. So this is where the name cornerback Tacario Davis, I mentioned him last week, somebody who I would love for USC to bring in for a visit. I think USC's looking at him. USC's bringing in a couple guys this week. One thing you're going to learn about USC and their transfer portal, they keep their cards close to the vest. They don't really announce who they're looking at. Until it's out there, you're not going to hear it from USC. It'll come from the players themselves. Tacario, he played at Millikan. I mentioned this last week on one of the episodes of Locked on USC. So again, another local guy out of Long Beach. Starting to notice a trend here, especially when it comes to recruiting, especially since Doug Belk took over. He got the message. Hopefully that starts to translate to Lincoln Riley and the rest of the staff. Doug Belk is really focused on the California kids for the 2026 class. USC is still putting up, the final touches on 2025. You got February signing period. Obviously, you got the transfer portal that you're filling in the roster. But in 2026, right now, committed, you've got Brandon Lockhart, Madden Reardon, RJ Sermons, the number one cornerback, not just in California. You've got Davon Benjamin, Brandon Arrington, Joshua Holland. Out of those 6, 5 are already committed to USC. And USC is in a really good place for Benjamin. Really good place. Plays at Oaks Christian. So again, for as much as I hate the transfer portal, at least the way it's set up right now, we just have to deal with it. It's the nature of the beast. It's necessary in order to compete. And that's what USC is trying to do. They're recruiting well. They got a lot of young talent, and they're now starting to focus in on California. I mentioned the guys they brought in the last class, guys like Jarvis Boatwright, Marquise Gallegos. That's your next batch of safeties that you're going to be seeing. Your cornerbacks, you're looking at Marcellus Williams, Braylon Conley. I just talked about who they're looking at in 2026. I want to close out this segment this way, because just to drive the point home how much I really despise the transfer portal, they need to cut out. They need to get rid of it in December. That I might change my tune. Get rid of the December portal. It's just there's too much going on. I was watching the Army-Navy game over the weekend, the only college game that would really mattered. They don't have to worry about this whole dynamic. But, all of a sudden, teams like Marshall, they do. I'm interested to see what happens with Central Florida, to be honest with you. They're going through a coaching change, so their roster is getting ravaged right now, but not as bad as Marshall's. Not only did Marshall win 10 games, they won their conference. They were going to, I believe, the Independence Bowl. Right now, they've got 30 guys who have jumped into the transfer portal. They had to back out. They're not going to play in their bowl game. They don't think they're going to have enough players to compete. Remember, next year, you're only going to be allowed to have a total of 105 players on your roster, scholarship and walk-on. Total. You got 85 scholarship guys. That means 20 walk-on. I'm curious. Of those 30 guys, forget Marshall's 30 guys, in the transfer portal right now, let's say you're a good player, but not an impact player. How many of you are going to have a scholarship waiting for you on the other side of that transfer portal when you come out? It's not a big number. Not a big number. So you want to know how stupid the timing of the December portal is? Why you need to get rid of it? Penn State, their backup quarterback. He wants to make sure he gets a fair. Remember, Penn State's in the playoffs. He wants to make sure he gets a fair shot. That he lets teams know, hey, I'm looking for a place to play next year. He let everybody know he's going to the transfer portal despite being in the playoffs. That's how stupid it is. Guys have to play those types of games. That means he's stepping away from his team. Just like those 30 guys from Marshall who left their teammates out, hung them out to dry, who now don't get to play in a bowl game because 30 guys decided they want to go play somewhere else. It sucks. I don't know. Maybe Penn State's backup quarterback wants to come to USC. They need a quarterback. No names are popping up so far, not on the radar. Like I said, USC likes to keep things close to the vest when it comes to what they're doing. We'll find out. Before we close out the segment, congratulations, Miller Moss. Good luck. You're a Louisville. All right. You beat them up. Now you're going to see if you can lead them to a win. Same thing, Sam Green, Kentucky, right? What's that? What's that all about? USC players moving to the state of Kentucky? All right. Also, one last note. Good luck, Rajon Davis. He entered the transfer portal as well. Look, USC needs help at linebacker. Problem is they need another linebacker coach that they could talk about. That's their issue right now. I'm hoping that Rajon ends up at Fresno State with Matt Entz. I think that'd be the perfect place for him. We'll see what happens. I'll keep everybody updated. So there you go. A little bit of update on what's going on with USC's transfer portal. Players available in the cornerback room, at safety. Let's talk about who might make an impact. Which players might make an impact in the bowl game coming up? That's in the next segment. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book right now. If you're a new customer and you can bet $5, you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and now you can do everything you want to do all in one place. You want to check out where the stats? Go to FanDuel.com. You want to check out live play-by-play highlights? Yep, FanDuel.com. You want to place a bet? Obviously, FanDuel.com. So now, when you get a hunch, you're in the middle of the game, you can check out everything, right? Just visit FanDuel.com, join today. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you bet $5 and that $5 bet wins. It's that simple. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. In the game against Texas A&M, don't forget that's who USC's taking on in a couple weeks out there in Las Vegas, Nevada. Are we going to see more run game, less wide receivers? Just curious. Is it going to be kind of a little precursor to what maybe 2025 could look like? Look, I don't think Lincoln Riley's offense is going to change a lot. However, I think with just two running backs available in this game, I'm curious. Is Lincoln Riley going to lean into the run game? I think he should. At the same time, use A'Marion Peterson and Brian Jackson, and then try and find a wide receiver rotation that can keep guys happy. This is really important going into the offseason, going into next year. Quentin Joyner, he's already off, getting married somewhere else. He's being courted. I think he was at Ohio State last week. He's going to have a lot of suitors. So, right, again, you've got two running backs coming in. I believe both are coming in January. You got Harry Dalton and Riley Wormley. This is the game where A'Marion Peterson needs to make Anthony Jones Jr., Lincoln Riley, make their jobs as difficult as possible, right? You have a strong game. USC doesn't need to get another running back out of the transfer portal. Brian Jackson, A'Marion Peterson. I mentioned the two freshmen coming in. After last week, after a practice last week, Coach Riley said, that Brian Jackson, he's earned the trust of the staff. He didn't say that about A'Marion. He also said this about Brian Jackson. I believe he's going to be a really good player here. Peterson needs to make the claim. Okay? If he and Brian have two really solid games against Texas A&M, who's still a pretty good defensive team, they're going to have some SEC caliber players on the other side of the line of scrimmage. I think that tells the coaching staff, you know what? We can look at somebody who's interested in coming in, but we don't necessarily need a running back out of the transfer portal. And depending on what we see in the spring with those new guys coming in, we still have the April transfer portal that we can go get a running back if we need one. So again, this is A'Marion's time. Go make a claim, demand the football, settle things down, make the decision for the coaching staff. As far as who USC is looking for or looking at, they hosted the running back from Bowling Green, Terrion Stewart, and they're also looking at another California running back who was playing at the University of Arizona, Speedy Luke, Rayshawn, St. John Bosco young man. Remember, coming out of high school, he was too small. Didn't fit USC's needs. Well, he's played in college for a few years now. He's moving on. He'd like to, maybe USC's going to be the place to go. And then if you're following social media, Jacoby Lane, yeah, guess what? He's doing some recruiting for USC. It's good, right? A friend of his, I think they went to high school together down there in Arizona, or at least they're Arizona acquaintances. His name's Deshaun Buchanan. Just finished up his freshman year at Idaho. I looked at some of his film. He's really good. Shifty. Low center of gravity. Bowling ball type. Yeah. Maybe not an every down back, but somebody who he's hard to find behind offensive linemen. And if he finds a crease, he doesn't go down easy. So it's somebody I would consider, definitely. Again, his name is Deshaun Buchanan. So again, A'Marion Peterson, Brian Jackson, if they can form a duo against Texas A&M, I don't think you're pressed to take a running back during this December winter portal window. Now, as far as the wide receivers, you've got Mekhi Lemon, you've got Kyle Ford, Zachariah Branch, Jacoby, Jay Fair, Jaden Richardson, DJ Xavier Jordan, Josiah Zamora, Charles Ross. That's 9 receivers you have available for the bowl game. Okay. Ford, Richardson, Ross. They're playing their final games. So now you're down to 6 wide receivers. This is a thing that, it's cutthroat. I don't know how much playing time Richardson and Ross are going to get. Kyle Ford, he saw a lot of playing time during the regular season. Not so much for the other two that I just mentioned. But you got to start looking at next year. And that's what the bowl games are for, to look at the younger guys. So I anticipate DJ Jordan getting a good long look. We know Mekhi is going to be one of the guys. We're hoping that Jacoby and Zachariah are going to be the guys. What about Jay Fair? Is he coming back next year? He's only a junior. Don't forget, coming in, you've got Romero Eisen, you got Corey Simmons, you got Tanuk Hines. You also have James Johnson. So you're losing 3 guys for sure. You got 4 guys coming in for sure. Is USC going to add a wide receiver? Look, I told you about the freshman from Tulsa, Joseph Williams. He had a really, really, really good time on his visit to USC. He's going to be highly sought after, though. If USC is going to bring in one guy, let that be the guy. Again, he's a freshman. That's my MO when it goes to when it comes to the transfer portal. I don't like the 1-year mercenaries. Give me a guy that's going to come for 2 or 3 years and develop. That's the best way to build your roster. And I get it. You need the 1-year guys, but you need those guys for specific needs. I don't think wide receiver is a specific need for USC right now. So in the bowl game, I anticipate the running backs to be featured. And I have a feeling, I'm hoping, that if Jacoby Lane, if he's focused, he's going to be USC's number 1 guy in 2025. Why do I feel that way? Well, I think he's the perfect guy to define your number 1 wide receiver. He's the guy who can make all the catches, run all the different routes. You need somebody who can do those contested 50-50 balls. That's Jacoby Lane. You want somebody who can make those one-handed catches? All right. I prefer 2 hands, but Jacoby's the guy. What about the guy who can use his body to shield the smaller defensive backs? Again, like on the slant routes, that's Jacoby Lane. If he's going to be getting those reps that Deuce Robinson probably thought he deserved, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why he's in the transfer portal, then keep doing it. But Jacoby's got to be focused. He's got to take on the responsibility. He's got to be accountable. He's got to be ready to be the dude. Right? He's almost done with his sophomore season. If the NFL is your path, you got next year to show everybody how serious you're going to be. So now you got Jacoby being the number 1 guy. What if Mekhi Lemon is the number 1 guy? I mean, we know he is your most reliable receiver right now. So maybe by default, he is number 1. But he can't do some of the things that Jacoby can. That's not a knock. I'm pointing out. I needed to be in this order. This is how I would line them up, 1 through 3. Jacoby, Mekhi, Zechariah. And then, you know what? If you get Joseph Williams, boom, great. That's your top 4. I need to see what DJ Jordan can do. I know what Joseph Williams can do based on what he did at Tulsa. I know what Jacoby and Mekhi and Zechariah are definitely capable of. We saw them do it in the Holiday Bowl last year. So again, is DJ ready to be introduced? Can he show what he's going to be able to do in the bowl game? What about the guys on defense? Who should we look for? Real quick, Desmond Stevens. This year he showed some flashes. We know what he's capable of. I have a feeling he's going to be getting a lot of reps in this game. I talked about the safeties earlier. I'm really excited to see those young safeties. I want to see Marquise Gallegos and Jarvis Boatwright Jr. I want to see those guys as well as Christian Pierce, Zion Branch. Again, depending on who's available, might see a lot of those guys. Regardless of who's in there, when those guys are in there, go make a play. Make a play in the bowl game. Give yourselves a head start going into spring camp. All right. We got a lot of football to talk about still. Got 2 more weeks before USC takes on Texas A&M. But you know what? We got some basketball. We're going to close out the show. Both men and women won on Sunday at Galen Center. We're going to talk about that next. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's a guarantee to be a bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T. That starts at 11 a.m. Eastern. And that's going to lead right into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, QTV, TBS, and Max. All right, so playoffs are coming up. But we got men's and women's hoop. They played a doubleheader at Galen Center on Sunday. You're watching this Monday. You're making this your first watch, your first listen of the week. So here you go. The women, they played a little bit of defense. They probably played a team that was well overmatched. Nevertheless, the women of Troy, the ladies of Troy, they beat Elon, the Phoenix, 88-30. You heard the score correct. 88-30. That's a 58-point win. The women improved to 10-1. Their only loss this year, at home to Notre Dame. It sucked. Next Saturday, though, check it out. They are going to be playing a primetime game Saturday on CBS. The number 5 women of Troy, they're taking on number 2 UConn. Nationally televised game. You want to know how crazy this is? You know how I found out about this game? I was watching the NFL on CBS. That game was getting pub more than once. Make sure you check that out. And then just a couple of notes on that one. You want to know how good USC's defense was? Elon had 12 points at halftime. That is the 3rd fewest points scored in a half by a USC opponent in the history of USC women's hoops. Pretty good. Now, USC had 4 players scored double figures, led by Juju Watkins, 26 points. She made 11 out of her 12 free throws. Pretty good. Then Kiki, she added 18 points. And you had Kaylee Heckel, she had 14 points. And Talia Van Olsen with 10 points. Raya Marshall, she was bigger on the boards, 14 rebounds. Season high, not bad. That game got a little bit of a late start. There was a power outage, so I think that game started around 12:30, not later. Excuse me. Now, in the second half of that doubleheader, the men, they took on Montana State. Another big win. Boring, but hey, you take it, right? 89-63. That's their second win in a row where they won big. Last week, they beat up on Washington. The Huskies, what was that score? 85-61. I told you about it. So they got their first conference win last Saturday, or last Sunday, pardon me. And then week later, beat up on Montana State. They've improved to 7-4. They're going to host Cal State Northridge on Wednesday. And then next Sunday, they host Southern University. And USC has to win those games. They just have to. They have to be 9-4 because once the new year starts, it gets real. I'm going to go over that here in a second. So in the game against the Bobcats, I mentioned it wasn't close. At one point, it was 27-8 in the first half. At halftime, it was 47-21. It was just total domination. Here's my favorite stat, and this was the one that I saw at halftime. It was on the boards. Rebounding, USC 26, Montana State 8. I need that all year long. All year long. Pump that into my veins. Here's your stats for the game. Not bad, right? USC, they shot 51% from the field. They held Montana State to 33%. Free throw shooting, 19-24. The Bobcats, 18-25. So even Steven there. Rebounds, 49-27 advantage for your Trojans. You had assists, 17-13. Steals, USC had 9. And USC blocked 6. Remember Max Ogbonpolo used to play for the Trojans? Well, he plays for Montana State now. Didn't do a whole lot of anything. I think this is his third team he's with now. He went from when he was at USC, he then went to Wyoming, and now he's up at Montana State. Good luck to Max. Nice young man. Your leading scores in this game, you had Desmond Claude, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, only 1 turnover. That's a big number there. Small number, but big. St. Thomas, 17 points. Not bad. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. It's a stat stuffer. And then Agbo, Malik, you had 12 points, 5 rebounds, and Rashawn Agee, 10 points. All those came in the first half. He left the game with an injury, fell on his leg. Hopefully he'll be okay. So I mentioned, after USC hosts Northridge and Southern, it's put on your big boy pants time. Put on your big boy conference pants time. USC blew out Washington. Washington is actually anticipated to do worse than USC this year. That's how bad they are. Montana State, they were just out-athleted. This is USC's schedule coming up. In January, they host Michigan, then they go at Indiana, at Illinois, come home to host Iowa, at Wisconsin. What do you think their record's going to be coming out of that? What is that? 5-game stretch. 5-0, 4-1, 3-2, 2-3, 1-4, 0-5. I'll tell you what, if USC comes out on the positive side of that, take it, run with it. We're going to find out what this team is all about after that 5-game stretch. And I really hope the USC fans show up to Galen Center when those teams show up, because when USC goes on the road, they're going to get a really good idea of what playing basketball in the big conference is like compared to playing in the Pac. Just different. Big crowds. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. I might see if I'm available. I might go to one of those games. We'll find out. We'll see. Talk about the road games. All right. I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. That's what we do. Don't forget, when you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, you got Locked on College Football. Don't forget about the college football playoffs coming up. And then when you're done making Locked on USC, Locked on College Football, get over there to wearesc.com. Got a lot of information for you over there. Till the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.